Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Callum and I have a new episode for the Houston Zoo recreation. South America's Pantanal is starting to get exciting, an outstanding streamside habitat for one of the rarest mammals of the Pantanal region. It's an animal of untamed rage with only a face a mother could love. It's the giant river otter. The world's largest freshwater otter deserves room to roam, and the Houston Zoo doesn't disappoint in any way. A large habitat surrounded by mud bank walls, features 2 pools, a waterfall, and plenty of dry ground full of tropical foliage. While we could watch the otters deep dive all day long, that's not all. Alongside the otters, the river building of the Pantanal also features an aquarium for South American freshwater fish, an emerald tree boa snake exhibit, and a smoky jungle frog exhibit. Quite the build to continue the Pantanal. Anyone a fan of the fearsome looking giant otter, be sure to like, comment and subscribe if you do. Making an immersive stream or river themed habitat that has different elevations involved is no easy task. I start with the main pool of the habitat forming the majority of the river scenery. This is a deep diving pool with an underwater view from inside the guest building. The habitat glass barrier will be used along the building edge, marked out by these black art shapes. Of course, we all know glass barriers and paths do not cooperate. The path will be placed at the barrier edge because it needs a clean drop into the pool. The solution: the path stays where it is, and I place some of the flexi coloured temple walls for the floor. The major challenge of the habitat is the link between the main pool and the lower pool. In the real zoo, this is more of a gentle slope, but the main pool needs to be this height, so a steeper slope will need to work somehow. The landscaping part here is the wide sloped hill that will just have to be covered in rocks, but getting that slope just right is extremely important. The lower pool is much smaller, providing a shallow pool for the otters, but know in the game the otters will be far too obsessed with deep diving than to notice this pool even exists. Alright, I'll admit I'm cheating a little here, but thank the zoo for this fantastic realistic mud bank wall blueprint on the Steam Workshop. I at least added another dark layer on top, which I believe is a dark soil effect. These mud walls are going to be placed around the entire habitat. This means a whole load of pieces for this as the big walls are just under 200 pieces each. The walls are mixed up to ensure any repetitive patterns don't ruin the habitat. I remember getting feedback on Houston's meerkat habitat near the entrance, which used similar mud walls by Caesar crates. Then I simply duplicated one type of the wall, ruined the initial look. So the slope terrain does come with its own challenges for pre-built walls. Small duplicates of the smaller walls are used to fill in the gaps. Lowering the wall is not a solution, as the height needs to be consistent around the habitat. The mud walls are not just going to be freestanding, there's all those ugly back parts to hide, so raising the terrain behind them creates a nice natural barrier for the habitat. The terrain is raised to just about the mud wall height, then a gentle slope is made that wraps around the habitat. The back of the habitat will eventually feature jaguars, so the empty space will help with that. Not done with these mud walls just yet, a cluster of the Oceana kahakaha plant, or the easier common name of perch and lily, is built to mimic the type of grass used topping the mud walls. These grass clusters are placed on top of the mud walls for the entire perimeter. Yes, you're probably thinking this is very tedious considering all the different shapes of the mud wall. The most prominent structures of this part of the Pantanal are these rustic yellow buildings. These buildings are directly inspired by similar buildings in the northern Pantanal region in Brazil. One such example is the Pantanal Jungle Lodge on the Miranda River. The same yellow design can be found, including the ridged walls, wooden fences and pier stilts. The pier stilts allow the lodge building to be adaptable to the dynamic water cycle of the Pantanal. Raised buildings are especially helpful for when the water rises dramatically during the wet season, when the grassland of the Pantanal turns into a wetland, flooding lower areas. Lodges like these in the Pantanal specialise in ecotourism, a responsible way of travelling to natural areas that promotes active conservation, minimising the impact tourists make on both the environment and its local peoples. However, ecotourism is not all cheery. Tour operators who take these eco-tourists can get too close to wildlife, which can lead to confrontations between populations of jaguars and giant otters, disrupting the natural cycle. This is one of the reasons why the giant otter is an endangered species. This glass barrier is rather ugly but necessary to keep the shelter below dry. The habitat has a rock ridge here to hold the main pool, with lots of faux rocks in this area around the waterfall and shelter area. Having lots of rocks here also allows me to create an easy slope for the otters to pass the waterfall and also the rock ridge. The largest faux rock is especially helpful for a smooth and accessible slope, and it blends in very well with the mudbank walls. Next up, the waterfall. The source of the water in this streamside habitat is a double waterfall, so using a simple pre-built waterfall isn't going to cut it. Water effects, rotated about 45 degrees, are placed in two slots in the mudbank wall. Not happy with the wide waterfall mid-effect, I angle one of the water jet effects to appear as fallen water. 2 or 3 of these effects are placed in each to create a realistic thinner waterfall. It should be noted that angling these waterfalls can be annoying to get it just right. A small pool is dug at the bottom of the falls as the start of creating a travelling stream effect. I don't just want water to appear as if it's fallen on sand terrain, I want it to appear as if the water is actually entering the main pool. Here I'm testing various water effects to see which helps the water look like it's travelling downstream. The rapid flow did seem promising initially, however it's no surprise all the effects fail to create a believable water flow. What I can use though is the pre-made waterfalls. I can add the long waterfall from the base of the falls. I know that defeats the entire point of digging the small pool in the first place. The benefit of the waterfall piece is that it is visible water flowing through any terrain and can be angled to your liking, a very useful tip for anyone making similar water designs. Finishing up the waterfall is extending the rocky terrain to the right and covering up the edges of the waterfall pieces. A water crossing is made here to encourage the otters to easily cross it, using the flat rocks without much issue with traversability. After lining the entire pool with the jagged rock edge, the fun part begins. I need to create a water flow down the entire slope as if the main pool was slowly emptying into the lower pool. There comes the issue of whether the otters will even travel on it, traversability issues of rocks, if water will be visible and hiding all the waterfall edges. The left waterfalls are also angled to add to the list of problems. It follows the same design as the waterfall earlier. Large flat rocks sit on top of the waterfall, covering the waterfall base, and other rocks hiding those edge pieces. Slightly different though, all the waterfalls are to be completely covered, with only the top flowing water should be visible. The good news though is the otters, which are now in the habitat, have no issue crossing the rocks on top of the waterfall. Let's talk a bit about the otters themselves. As the name suggests, the giant river otter is the largest freshwater otter in the world, measuring up to 6 feet long or 1.8 meters. They are very sociable animals, forming groups of up to 10 individuals, made up of reproducing pairs and their offspring. These otters hunt and live together like many other social animals. The Houston Zoo has 2 pairs or 4 giant otters on display at the Pantanal. In this recreation, I chose to display 5 otters just so there's always an otter nearby to see. Unique on most otter species, their fur is a dark brown with white patch that extends from their jaw to his chest. This patch is unique on each animal and serves as a mark to identify individuals among the group. The giant otter is also an apex predator in its natural range, and its carnivorous diet is almost entirely composed of fish. It doesn't have many natural predators, only the jaguar and black caiman pose some threat to them. Of course, the predator that poses significant risk towards the otter are humans. Giant otters are hunted illegally for their fur and meat. Habitat threats such as deforestation and mining have greatly reduced its natural range, and even mismanaged tourism mentioned earlier. Down by the lower pool, I built one of the rustic yellow buildings as the keeper building for the otter habitat. I should mention all of the yellow buildings are for the staff. They are not just scenery pieces for the path. This building has a large wooden deck that provides shelter for the lower pool viewing area for the guests. Guests do not get access to the above deck as there is a gate preventing them. A single glass barrier provides a fantastic view into the habitat, only obscured by the wooden pier stilts supporting the deck above. If the viewing area is complete, it's time to add some nature into the habitat. Now, shadows are going to ruin the habitat. The angle of the habitat and the height of the trees will cover the entire habitat in shadows if I follow the real zoo exactly. The problem is I need a dense barrier above the mud walls, so smart placement of large trees, such as the strangler fig tree, is needed to minimise large shadows destroying any lighting quality below. I also take advantage of the large open space behind and place some kapok trees, another one of my tips for minimising piece count in nature areas. Some custom trees are used, like my California fan palm and black willow tree. Of course, my standard blend of custard apple trees and creosote bushes are used to hide the background effectively. It may seem repetitive, but a sea of green is exactly the aim for background foliage. Tropical tree saplings and a variety of palm trees, like the ponytail palm tree, are very useful for creating a tropical background, while minimising large shadows. I even add some giant rhubarb plants to add some spice to the background scenery. Below, inside the habitat, there is a mix of smaller foliage used. First is the twin foxtail palm, placed alongside one of my custom Peraltis palm trees. Smaller foliage includes some creosote bushes, catalya orchids under the palm trees and bushes, ponytail palms, and a variety of grasses. Grasses do help enhance the sandy terrain even for a streamside habitat. Buffalo, bluestem, and some of my custom grasses are used to help build up the foliage against the mudback walls. Whether or not it's excessive, I don't know. I'm trying to match the look of the habitat, but a lot of the references of the Houston Zoo feature plants that seem to die in summer heat, so That's very helpful. The final touch of the otter habitat is one hell of a broken tree. I chose to use the Indonesian timber poles for these logs so I can sort of create the complex shape and match the colour somewhat. The tree sits in the pool edge between the large log and mud bath. It extends well over to the mud bath and then down into the main pool, all the way down touching the pool floor. Like any complex custom foliage, I start at the bottom and work my way up, using the short length of the timber poles to my advantage. Trying to create a natural looking log made with these obviously not very natural wooden poles. Making these poles go in all sorts of directions, using the real zoo example as a reference, I can slowly form something that looks like a broken tree. It is definitely one of those trust the process moments. With the central log duplicated together to form a thicker log, I can finally get somewhere. Smaller separate Y-shaped logs are added and easily make this broken tree more appealing to look at. The overlapping of the poles for the thicker section thankfully isn't that noticeable from the guest viewing areas. Back in the guest viewing building, I'll show one of the static animal builds. The most interesting is the aquarium that appears like it is in the same water as the otters. Of course, having fish and otters' favourite food in the same water is an absolutely fantastic idea, so the zoo went and installed an acrylic panel to annoy these hungry otters. 6 species of fish are inside this small aquarium. It isn't the largest, but it is a really nice way to showcase the diversity of the Pantanal rivers. The fish featured are Piranha River Pacu, Silver Dollar, Red Tail Catfish, Golden Dorado, Zingu Freshwater Stingray, and Ocellate Freshwater Stingray. The aquarium is surrounded by the same kind of faux rocks for a natural theming throughout this building. The water is coloured as the same shade as the otter pool to give the appearance as the same water as the pool. And to decorate the tank, some tree roots are added. The aquarium is a little dark, so a couple spotlights are placed above to light up the tank, and most importantly highlight the details of the fish species. A little more details like small faux rock piles and small eelgrass complete the static aquarium. Back at the start of the Pantanal path for the tour, as it has been redesigned completely, there are some custom signs of road signs of South American animals. The path now has improved fencing and lots of tropical foliage and a curved path into the Pantanal area. This is all what we saw last episode, the main entrance into the Pantanal with the colourful custom sign, the 2 yellow rustic buildings above us, and the path continuing under them. Straight ahead there's the mixed howler monkey and a gouty habitat with all its custom climbing frame, along with the anaconda exhibit, which also saw a redesign to match the real exhibit more closely. The pebble panels available on the Steam Workshop have also been added on the floor border. Now, the new stuff this episode, the giant river otter habitat lines this side of the building. A long glass window provides guests with a fantastic view into the main pool of the habitat. The underwater viewing area where we can see the otters swimming around. On the right side we can see the double waterfall and the building shelter, all fully accessible to the otters when they come over to the side of the habitat. Even with all the broken tree extending far into the pool, the otters don't seem to care, and this doesn't affect their deep diving patterns. In the background, otters will occasionally play in the mud bath. Custom signage for the habitat is made of 3 custom media screens. It is a very minimal design, but it's easy to read with nice large pictures on this blotchy grey background. The most important here is noting the giant river otter is an endangered species and how large these otters can go. The remaining parts of this river building 3 features 3 static exhibits. First on the right is the Pantanal Aquarium, where we can find 6 species of freshwater fish in a small aquarium. All of these are my static fish props except the freshwater stingrays. These can also be found in the Steam Workshop. We also have a detailed sign about the fish of the Pantanal, where the wet season brings abundant water for the fish to expand their range. This in turn also provides the otters with more food. On the left, a tropical exhibit for the smoky jungle frog. This species is not found in the Pantanal, more northern Brazil like the northern Amazon rainforest. I don't think the Pantanal frog species are that common in zoos in the first place. On the opposite side, the last exhibit is for the emerald tree boa, again another species not found in the Pantanal. We can find the boa perched on this high tree branch, judging us from above. We leave the river building and pass through this tropical plant-lined path. Mud walls surround us on both sides while we approach yet another yellow building. Passing under the building, we enter a Pantanal-themed plaza with some shaded seating. Not much really for a plaza, just a rest area to take a break from the Texas heat. With this eco-lodge theme mentioned earlier, canoes for the Pantanal theming complement these buildings. Trespassing just a little, the stairs lead up to the staff area deck where we can get an above view of the lower pool of the otter habitat. The flow and water effect can be seen here, and I'm proud this turned out the way it did. The lower pool isn't a popular area for the otters. Occasionally the keeper will drop some fish on the sloped rocks, and that will attract them down to the lower pool. Below the deck, the guest viewing area has another large window for viewing, all one seamless barrier right at the water's edge. As expected, it is still quiet down here. To the left is another canoe, one of the Oceania canoes coloured green. Signage for ecotourism can be seen, focusing on the positive side of ecotourism, considering the theme of the yellow eco-lodge buildings. That's the tour of this fantastic otter habitat complete. Thanks for watching everyone, see you next time.